Hi, this is Sean. So today's video is going to be about my new obsession with Vinted. So obviously we try to be sustainable. We try to not buy too much and not consume too much. We try to only buy the things we need and things like that. But a lot of us, me, are not particularly good at that. So I decided, in order to try and save money amongst other things and be more sustainable and all that sort of stuff, that I would not only but mainly buy secondhand clothes, disregarding the obvious things that you wouldn't buy secondhand. So I've never been a huge fan of charity shops and things like that, because when you go into a charity shop, it's normally loads of crap that people don't want, or you know, clothing owned by people who may have passed away and things like that. I've never also been a fan of sales. Obviously, if something's cheaper, fantastic, but sales are mostly end of season stuff that people don't want and that people haven't bought. And I've always liked the idea of choosing the things that I want to own and them being important for me and things like that, which might sound ridiculous, but there you go. So I discovered, obviously Vinted is not a new thing, and I've known about it for a long time, but I've recently started using it to buy things, not really to sell things. And I think it's really, really good on the one hand, in order to buy things, but also it's really, really worrying when you look on Vinted. So as you may or may not be aware, when you go on Vinted, there's an app, and basically what happens is you search for things, and you can find those things and then buy them, and it's private sellers, and it's good because you tend to get more of a realistic price on Vinted than on eBay. Because on eBay, everybody knows what everything's worth. Not that they don't on Vinted. And, if you want to buy something that's worth a certain amount, it seems to be that it's priced accordingly. Whereas on Vinted, my favourites here, Ralph Lauren polo shirt, £8.50, which is a realistic price, and it's good for the seller because they're getting some money, and it's good for the buyer because you're not spending as much and you're also being a bit more sustainable and things like that. And one thing I've found is I've always been quite interested in brands. So I like Ivy style clothes, so I like Ralph Lauren and Brooks Brothers and things like that, and you can search it for the individual things, and there's a lot of things on Vinted. So that's one of the worrying things about the world that we live in now, that I'm looking currently for a pair of white trainers, and I hadn't originally intended to buy them secondhand, because I think if you're going to keep something for a relatively long period of time, then it's okay to buy it new. But then I looked on Vinted, and there was hundreds and hundreds of pairs in every size, and it's just a bit worrying that people have got so much stuff in their houses or whatever that they don't want, and they're willing to sell to other people. So I think that can be something that I can do in order to be more sustainable, but it's also good for me because I don't have to spend as much money. So I was looking at various white trainers, £90 say, and I have offered on Vinted on 2 pairs of white trainers for £28, both of them for £28. So I'm going to save some money, but I'm also not buying a new thing. So that makes me feel quite nice, but also it's quite exciting searching stuff on Vinted and finding something that you want. And also for me, it's quite important that I try and, I know it's a false, the idea of being an individual, but it's quite important that I try and be maybe a little bit different and buy the things that I want and that represent me as a person. And you can do that a bit more on Vinted, because obviously it's not just the things in the shops, it's things that don't exist anymore and not available anymore, and things like that. So when I was talking about being an individual, when I was on holiday this summer, I saw this guy in this shirt and I thought, wow, that's a really nice shirt. I like that. And I couldn't find that this shirt existed. It was just a Ralph Lauren shirt with a pocket. There's nothing special. And I found it on Vinted, and I subsequently bought it for £20 rather than £100, whatever a new Ralph Lauren shirt is. So everyone's a winner. It's quite exciting. You search something and you can favorite things, and you can keep them so that you can look back on them later. People might send you offers. You can offer on items. One thing I would caution about if you do use Vinted is be aware of people's labeling of the clothes. So for example, I wanted to buy a white Oxford Ralph Lauren shirt, custom fit. Okay, so I had the exact idea of the product that I wanted to buy. I bought one. It arrived at my house, and it turned out that it was a woman's shirt. So it became too much trouble to send it back because it was very, very inexpensive. So it would have cost me more to send it back, and the time that it would have taken and things like that. So I bought another one. It came and it was for a woman. This one was more expensive. So I emailed the seller and they were really nice about it. They said, no, this is a man's shirt. I was like, it isn't a man's shirt. I sent them a picture and they were really nice about it. And they could have actually said no to a refund because it didn't specify that it was a man's shirt on the advert. But yeah, interesting story that, isn't it? But just be aware of the labeling of the things and whether you're clear about the condition of the item and things like that when you buy it. I've had some things that I've ordered and have turned up and have not fitted because I didn't spot something. And the last thing that I bought and arrived was a cardigan, and it has a little hole on the shoulder that I didn't notice in the advert, and I'm not sure whether the advertiser actually specified that, but it was £10, and it was wool, and it's a brand and stuff like that. Another thing I would say about Vinted is it's pretty good for watches as well. So obviously this is mainly a watch channel, and I'm really obsessed with Swatch. And you can find some quite interesting swatches on Vinted as well, and some collectors who sell on Vinted. So yeah, I would say if you haven't used Vinted before, and if you're a bit dubious about second-hand clothes, maybe give it a try, because I've bought some quite good stuff, and I am into brands, so and I'm into Ivy style clothes and Ralph Lauren and brands like that, which there's so much stuff out there that you're always going to find what you're looking for, and at a really affordable price as well, which is really good. And also we're doing our bit for sustainability, and also it's quite exciting really, and it can be addictive, which is something to bear in mind. When you find the thing that you actually want, rather than the things that have been put on sale by the shop, or the things that, a lot of the time when we do go shopping, we're at the mercy of the things that have been chosen and curated by the shop, whereas I find Vintage, you can obviously search for things that you want, that represent you as a person. Yeah, so just a little bit of a video really about Vinted and about how I'm getting into it at the moment. If you have any hacks for Vinted, for getting bargains and for searching for things, let me know. And tell me about your secondhand clothing kind of journey, if that's the way to put it. Because I've always been someone who didn't mind necessarily buying secondhand, but I've never found a way to do it. Because charity shops, I mean, obviously what you could do is you could go to an area that was wealthy and look in the charity shops there and things like that. But I've always found that most of the stuff in charity shops is proving that adage that one person's junk is another person's treasure, kind of false. It's mostly junk. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.